Hey folks, Reloading Bench back with you once again. And I thought I would take my tap and die skills to the next level. For any of you who have a Dewey Rod, especially if it's I think this is 22, 17 and 22. So anything from a 17 HMR to a 22 long rifle. This long 36 inch, I like Dewey rods. Problem is, this is a female adapter, and when you think about a normal male 8x32, for this Dewey, look at the difference in the threads. And a long time ago I thought I had an adapter that would essentially do the same thing as this. Take it from that 17 HMR threading or 17 whatever that thread is to your standard 8x32. So I started playing around with the tap and die set, and this morning I was threading just an old piece of rod I had, and I realized that for this particular die that I'm going to try and use to recreate this thread, this rod is too big. So I had to run to the store, but the threads I did create came out nice. The local hardware store had a very tiny 3/32 brass rod that looks like it fits in here. So I am going to take this and try and thread it so that I can essentially create an adapter that goes between this and this. So I'm going to create, these are female to female, so I need essentially just a male thread to connect these two to permanently change this to an 8x32. So let's see what happens. Back in a few. So deja vu, I'm shaking my cutting wheel. Not that I would need a lot. And this is such a tiny die with a tiny rod. Okay, that was stellar. Alright, let's see what happens. And brass is not a tough metal, so I'm hoping I can feel it biting. This is a lot nicer than working with the wrench. And I think shoot a little down there, let that soak in. So same principle, a couple forward. I'm trying not to be all over the place in terms of wiggling. Looks like it's level. I mean, it's obviously not near the resistance I was getting with what I cut for the Hornady Ergo handle. So it's definitely working. Okay, so I'll probably cut the video here, because there's no point of me repeating the same process, and then once I have the threads cut, I'll come back. There is my cut, and let me see if I can adjust and zoom in, if it will pick the threads up. Maybe not. So let's take this off. This came out great. Threads look very crisp, clean. It's a much easier tool to work with than a wrench. So my trip to Harbor Freight about a week ago is paying dividends, considering I've been looking for this Dewey adapter for a long time and off and on, and I'll be able to make something for considerably cheaper than what I would buy it. Okay, so there is my adapter that I'm going to snap off here and see if it works. So hang on. This a fail. Again, beautiful cut on the, as you can see, my cheap die set, tap and die set, but beautiful. It did a beautiful job. Unfortunately, I'm going to guess the Dewey doesn't grip. Here come the allergies. And here's the Dewey Rod. Same thing. Excuse me. It does not quite grip. So maybe a proprietary size there. Plan B. After more than a few runs to the hardware store, I ended up, in fact, I'll pull this out of the vise. I ended up taking a different strategy. Originally, I started off with trying to take a die that was as close to, or what I thought was, the threading for the Dewey, which appears to be somewhat proprietary. So I went through, I started with a 3/32, then I went back and got a 1/8, and even though my taps said this was a 440, the 440 die, when I put a thread on that, was too small. So then I picked up a 6/32 thread foot of brass, and obviously that was a little bit too big. So I thought to myself, I'm going to make this my own version of this adapter. This is obviously 832 and 832, female to male. So what I did was, when I was out shopping, I found, I showed you this earlier, this female to female 832 to other. I'll just leave that as other. And what I then did was find one of my taps that was the same size as a 6/32 rod that was already threaded, and I took this tap and rethreaded the end of the Dewey rod, and then I rethreaded the end of this female to female. There's the 832, and then I cut and beveled a piece from this rod. So I'm now going to take a little blue Loctite and there goes the Dewey, which has been doing that. The Dewey's been doing all day. I'm trying to get a close-up here and do this in front of the camera, and it's not working out so well. So this is now threaded for my makeshift male adapter. And I will put some more Loctite on this end for my makeshift female adapter. Let me grab some pliers to cinch that down a little. Okay, I now have what was a useless Dewey cleaning rod that only accepted this minuscule threading. Now capable of taking an 832 thread for all of my components. And I am now good. So that was a day of brass fittings, and sometimes you just gotta change the game plan. So I started trying to adapt to the Dewey, and then I just decided it was time to redo the Dewey. So now the Dewey is standard, and this is once again usable. Thanks all.